Last week, we talked about using Shepards to validate your authority. This week, we're going to talk about using Shepards to expand your research or learn more about your topic. So let's take a look. I'm going to use my Shep: shortcut. Remember, that's going to take me right to the Shepard's report. And all you have to do is put in your citation. Remember, you don't have to be Blue Book perfect. So this takes me right to the Shepard's report for McNeil versus Economics Laboratories. And we can focus on just one type of treatment. So maybe we want to see who has followed this case. This can help us find either more contemporary or jurisdictionally relevant cases to cite to McNeil. Now, McNeil actually has a red stop sign because of a particular split within a particular circuit. So not every circuit has treated McNeil negatively. This shows us that we have opinions from the 3rd, 4th, and 7th Circuit and from the state of Iowa. And these are all the cases that have followed McNeil. If we want to be even more specific, we can use our search within results and narrow our discussion within the Shepard's report to a particular term. So here, I'm looking at those cases that have followed McNeil and discuss the terms front pay. So I am able to narrow my focus and find those documents or those cases that discuss my key term and have also followed McNeil. We can see here at the end of each of these cases, this shows us what Shepard signal applies to that particular case. So we have a couple that have triangles, red stop signs, triangles. So we want to pay attention to that and Shepardize the documents that we are citing to as well. The other way that you can use Shepards, and we talked about this a little bit last week, is to focus on cases that explain your case. So let's look at an example of that. So here we're looking at the Shepard's report for Pennoyer. And under the neutral category, one of those categories is explained by. So we actually have 30 opinions that talk about Pennoyer and explain it to us, which is so helpful because it helps us understand how Pennoyer fits into the grand scheme of things. So explained by is a great category for learning more about your case. Now let's talk about our other two tabs in the Shepard's report, other citing sources and the table of authorities. First, let's take a look at the table of authorities tab. So the table of authorities is going to show us every case that this case, Patrick W., cites to in the opinion. The table of authorities is a great way for us to see all of the cases that our case cites to and how that case has been treated. It also allows us to uncover weaknesses in the underlying authority. So if we look at this, we can see that the Patrick W. case cites to all of these cases. Some of them it talks about in great detail, and some of them it just cites to briefly. But we want to pay attention to the Shepard signals, like here. So this is telling us that the Flores case is one that Patrick W. follows. And if we look at the Flores case, we can see that it has negative treatment. So we want to pay attention to things like that because it could be that our case is relying on shaky precedent in following this particular opinion. So the table of authorities can be like your secret weapon and just making sure that everything you're citing to is strong in terms of precedent. One of the other tools that you have at your disposal for Shepards and uncovering weaknesses is our Shepards at-risk feature. Now we'll talk more about this in subsequent weeks as well, but when you pull up a case, if you have an at-risk indication, that means that your case is relying on precedent that has been overruled or undermined by a prior decision. So this is telling us that the text here that the McGee case is citing to has been undermined because it relies on an overruled prior decision. It's citing to Wigley v. State, which was later overruled by Golston v. State. So this helps draw our attention to parts of the opinion that are not bad law. McGee is not bad law. Nobody's talked, about McGee negatively. But the at-risk indicator is going to show us that we probably wouldn't want to rely on McGee for this particular portion because it relies on Wigley, which was overruled by Golston v. State. Now let's talk about the other citing sources tab, which is the other way to expand your authority. You can again access the Other Citing Sources tab from the Shepard's preview box, or we can Shepardize the full document and go to the tab itself. Now the Other Citing Sources tab is going to show us everything that's not an opinion. So this includes court documents like briefs and motions, secondary sources like law reviews and treatises, other citations, regulations, and even statutory annotations that cite to our case. This is incredibly helpful if we are writing a brief or we're trying to learn more about McNeil. We can look at briefs that people have filed that discuss McNeil. And once again, this was the case that dealt with front pay, so we may want to specifically look at those documents that reference front pay and are briefs that have been filed in court that discuss this case. This is going to help us prepare for an argument or draft our own brief. The other thing that's useful is to look at law reviews that have cited to your case because they do a good job of explaining. And here we're looking at those that talk specifically about front pay, which helps us out as well. Remember that you can also Shepardize law review articles. So if we use our Shep : again and we put in the citation for a law review article, we are going to get any of those decisions or other citing sources that talk about that law review article. So citing decisions would include cases that have cited to our article. Other citing sources is going to be other law review articles, treatises, any briefs that have mentioned this law review article, and statutory annotations as well. So again, we have a lot to work with in terms of learning more about our topic just from the Shepard report, and also expanding our research or narrowing our research using search within results or the filters on the left. That's all for today. Join us next week when we start 15-Minute Fridays live again, 12 to 12:15 on Zoom. Hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you soon.